closely, as you see, the man on the left-hand side by the Portaloo punched by police, and then Stuff put up a notification over the video to hide the eye gouging. Look at that, right there. They purposefully hide police brutality and make it look like it was him. This is the uncut footage where they haven't covered it. This is the footage everyone should have seen. See here, he's pushed by police. He has his phone in his hand, his arms are locked behind him, and the officer is eye gouging him, deep eye gouging him and punching him with the other hand. That's what Stuff were trying to hide from their videos, from the public. And people think the protesters are violent. This is one of the only people that was arrested that day, and look at the deep eye gouge that the officer gives him. You cannot say that if there were only 3 arrests that day and one of them was this guy, that all the protesters are angry and violent and military action is called upon for them.
Put your arms behind your back, and you're resisting, and I couldn't move my arms because I was on top of my arm and they were pinning on top of me. So it was a bit brutal. It was just uncalled for, I think.
Mate, look at you, it's deeply uncalled for. No violence, no one needs to get hurt.
No one needs to get hurt.
You are defending graphene oxide in your body. You are defending graphene oxide in your body.
We can see that, bro! There's a lot of carrying you can't win the thing.
We want to see your faces. We want to see your faces. We want to see your faces. Every one of you.
We're all 10 men each. Protect the New Zealand police. Move Scumbag! Scumbag! New Zealand's watching, bro! New Zealand's watching! The police are crushing them! The police are crushing people against Portaloo! How dare you! How disgusting!
And there's the man over there. So Portaloo Phil's just asking the officer what's happening. Obviously it's past 10 AM, so we're just wondering what's going on, and the officer's just informed Phil that he will most likely be seen from this side. friend. And hey Phil, any idea how long we've got until you get your...
I was looking at
Say.
the board up there and it said that I was due in at 9 a.m. I was supposed to come at 10.
Yeah.
Emma Gold!
So I might have to wait.
No parents? She here or not? It's been called right now. Okay.
Her court date was the 3rd of March, she just told me.
Not what it says on the system.
Oh well. Okay, so may have been missed, we don't know, but
I
you were
don't
clearly
know.
told 10 a.m. to be
Yeah,
here,
I was
so...
told 10, so I was expecting 10. If I was told 9, I certainly missed it. I should have been there.
Yeah.
I was quite disappointed when I saw it rolling up on the screen at the back
Yeah.
there.
So are we able to get clarification from anyone, do you think? No.
Laura Casson!
They just say, wait till you
No.
call.
No parents.
Alright, no worries. Okay, well hopefully that happens soon.
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't know that Brandon looked at it and he showed me before, and I was like, oh, you need to just tell people about it.
Yeah.
The damage to his head and everything was...
But that was from a separate incident.
Yeah, it was from a
Yeah.
separate incident, but they treated him so well in the police, and now he says this, he's really disappointed because,
Yeah.
you know, all his experience, like just about all my experiences with police up until now have been really positive. Even when they raided my house and everything, they were really sweet to me, they were always nice.
The respect was always there, and
Yeah.
now a little bit of that has gone out the window
Yeah.
with a select few.
With a select
few officers,
This
yeah.
guy around the corner, CP26, you should go and film him. It's a piece of work. Yeah.
All good, my friend. Now, did I put down my coffee somewhere? I did have a coffee jar.
You should be very careful with what you it's apparently 4 charges against me now. I'm only aware of 1 charge. So 3 charges have been and they have contacted me about them. My bail condition is not to incite violence against that lease. Kind of weird.
That is strange. I'm not sure how to respond to that one.
I'm not sure
Since it was pretty obvious from the footage that you were not inciting any violence whatsoever. Very obvious. It was quite the opposite, in
Well, I
fact.
tell you what, I talked to a senior sergeant this morning and he almost condoned what happened to me, saying, oh, you shouldn't spit it at the police. I said, I never spit it. I said, never have in my entire life.
What?
You know?
Accusations coming left, right and centre.
And I want to know what these other 3 charges are, so I'm waiting.
So you haven't been advised even what you've been charged with?
Yeah. How can they charge me without even contacting me about those charges? It's ridiculous. So I guess I'll find out soon. I'll tell you in the interview.
Yeah, okay. Alright, thank you, Phil. The lady here has just repeated that the terms of his bail conditions are that he does not incite any violence, and she's informed him again that he is to reappear here on the 21st of April. And it looks like he's signing his bond conditions paperwork.
That will be in your disclosure what they've charged you with today.
So I dropped our bail conditions. Are they back on Parliament grounds?
I've just overheard Fubatha walking past saying they've dropped bail conditions, they are now allowed back on Parliament grounds. Again, that's just something I've overheard.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so what you need to do is just go through, photograph all of those, get them scanned, and then go through them for I'll talk to Sue about cooperation.
I've been charged to assault with disorderly behaviour, violence. None of these were on the first charge.
Okay, so I've just seen Phil's paperwork, and it says that he has 4 charges. One of those is disorderly behaviour likely to cause violence. 2 of those charges are sorry, I'll just double check. 2 assaults on police, 2 charges of assaults on police, and 1 charge of resisting police. So we'll see how that goes down when he comes back to his next hearing on the 21st of April. 21st of April. Okay, so that seems to be all that you need to be here for, is that right? Are you heading back to Parliament now?
I'm going to head back and I just need to photograph all of these and get them to Louder. And
beautiful.
Then I've got other things that I need to do today, but this is a real eye-opener that is, quite interesting that they've changed the charges.
Yes,
completely.
because initially it was just 1 charge, yeah. So these charges have changed and you haven't been advised of that until just now. Alright, well thank you Phil, and thank you for letting us share your court journey.
I've even got my criminal history there.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, which is, you can film that if you like. There's my criminal history. I've
just
never been convicted.
Going to cover some of the details?
Oh yes, never been convicted of anything.
Yeah, never been convicted of anything in his life, and now facing this. So, yeah, all good. Thanks Phil, we'll see you back at Parliament.
Yeah, cool.
Alright guys.
So just so you know, I'm double vaxxed. I got vaxxed back in September and October where my second one came in. My flatmate's brother died in early October after taking the vax, and I started to do some deep research into it, and I started to notice the stats were changing because they were using historical stats using a base rate fallacy by putting all the deaths where there was no vaccines into the stats as unvaxxed deaths. Okay, yesterday morning the call went out to hold the line. I was on sentry at the time, it was about 6 a.m. We moved up. I'm not very much of a runner, but I jogged up to the corner of Hill Street and we went up towards Kate Shepherd Place. When I arrived there's about the same amount of protesters and police. I engaged some of the police just having a bit of banter, and most of them seemed happy and calm, and then someone yelled out, "They're up Molesworth," so I ran down Hill Street and up Molesworth to where they had moved the barriers forward about 30 metres. When I arrived, the second barrier was just being put in place by the forklift. It seemed a bit disorganised, and I started making a call, fall back and bind up. And then other protesters, one who I'd seen and a couple who I hadn't, started calling out against me going, "No, we're not doing that, we're not doing..." And I was like, everywhere else I've been, I'm always at the front line, and people listen when, when we're heavily outnumbered like that, and it seems strange to me. The police had about 30 there, and I was there for a few minutes trying to engage and talk to some of them, but they weren't that interested, and then the white car came up. Now, the white car came up about 50 k's, dropped right down, and then just before he hit the police had all spread, even though they were looking at us like they were expecting it, and he hit the brakes so it made a squeal, like he was going faster than he was, when you hit the brakes really hard, and he didn't actually touch any officer as far as I could see, and then the officers surrounded the car, and like it was a staged play, instead of just taking out the driver's side window and getting in, they banged on all the windows, so all the protesters in the area were focused. Now I started falling back and shouting to the guys, "Look, fall back, bind up." And I looked over, and on the quad opposite where those bollards are now. There's a quad between the big buildings. I could see 40 officers or so coming in and in marching order with 12 or maybe 6, hard to tell. I'll say 12 people with riot shields. They weren't dressed fully in riot gear, they just had the shields. So they, as soon as I started shouting riot police, they came running and skipped our front line because there wasn't enough of us and we weren't bound up, and they ran down the footpath, and as soon as that happened I turned and I started running and yelling, get back, and we had maybe 6 of us go back. Now the guy next to me, I think his name was Dylan, big guy, like big muscly guy. Just before we got to the Portaloos, about 5 metres out on the corner of Hill and Molesworth, one of the police officers with a riot shield hit him with the shield, and he just turned around, grabbed the shield and bodily threw the man on the ground. I stopped right there and I put my hands out to make sure none of the protesters harmed the officer, and for what seemed like 5 or 10 seconds before the others arrived, but people say it was probably only 2 seconds, so it just feels a lot slower at the time. And I did stand there making sure that the officer wasn't harmed, and they hit me with the shields, but it didn't seem like they were trying to hurt me. They just pushed me back, and so they pushed me off, and I got pushed back a couple of metres towards the Portaloos, so I was about 5 to 10 metres, somewhere around that, away from the Portaloos. And I sort of said, hey man, there's no need for that, I'll fall back. And then they formed a line with the riot shields, and a senior sergeant was behind them, and he was off to the left, and as soon as he saw me, he diverted and he came straight in for me. But he was behind the shield wall and he said, get back. So I moved back, and then I got out my phone, I put it onto video, I said, you know, no need for this, and then whang, bang bang, he hit me twice overhead, I think it was overhead lefts, and here of course, and I said, hey, you know, there's no need for that, but I was trying to, oh sorry, I was using my right hand, I was trying to get their badge numbers, which were all showing on their uniform, and they pushed up against me again. Once again, the guys with the shields weren't like argy-bargy, they could have, you know, tried to hit me hard or anything, they were just pushing against me to force a line. And I get that, so I was trying to bind up with people. The only person that I managed to bind up with successfully was a 17-year-old kid, brave kid. I ended up going to the cells with him, but that kid, first ever experience of protest, and I still want to see him. If anybody knows who he is, I'd love to hear from him. So that happened, then I got the guys with shields pushed on me, they parted, and that senior sergeant came in with 2 big uppercuts, trying to hit my rib region, either to win me or to break a rib, but I'm too fat for that. So they then formed up again and pushed me all the way, and he kept on saying every 10 seconds or so, move back, and then I hit the Portaloos because I'd moved back as far as I could go, and I said, you know, this is as far as I could go, and I'm holding my camera trying to get it back into my pocket or something, and he could see that I was trying to get the camera away, and that's when he came in and he attacked me bodily through, I think it was another overhand left, and then went in and gouged my eyes with 2 thumbs, and at that stage I thought, I'm under threat here, I can't get back any further. And so I charged him. I regret charging them, but at that stage I had sustained, I've seen the video, I've sustained a minute of constant attack without throwing anything back at the guy, only acting in a passive manner and just trying to get some video of what was going on. So that's what happened. When I charged out, of course, that isolated me. They threw me to the ground. I got my arm pinned under me and they were going, give us your arm, put it behind your back. And I couldn't. I had my body weight and their body weight on top of me, and I was going, you know, let me get my arm out. And when I pulled my arm out, my phone went loose. Now, I've been told by other protesters that took video at the time, when they were cutting me off after they bound my hands behind my back, one of the officers picked up that phone. When I arrived at Wellington Central Station, and it took nearly 25 minutes because they went way out on the motorway and they took a big detour because I guess they're not from Wellington. My phone was not with my property, so the phone has been taken by the police. Sue Gray, who is representing me, asked for it back yesterday morning. We have heard nothing from the police about my phone, and that of course cripples my ability to communicate. If my mother sees this, I just want to say, Mum, I love you, and I'm sorry if you feel embarrassed, but it had to happen. And that's what happened. Yeah.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you, my bro. We appreciate you and all that you are and all that you've given, bro. I see you. I total for you, brother. Thank you for being a manatane here on the ground, man.
Oh, you know, thanks for representing and bringing our story to the world, you know. Well, we're only here for freedom. We do it in a peaceful way. And the officers out there, as I say, they're not looking to harm us.
Most of them,
the vast majority, I would say, maybe it's 2 to 5% that cause trouble. And we have our troublemakers here too, but we try and deal with them. When they make trouble, we isolate them and we either hand them in or we get them out of the line. And that's what the police should be doing too. And it's sad to see every time I see a troublemaker in the police, they're the senior sergeant calling the orders. Now, that's wrong. If your leadership is attacking the citizens of New Zealand, then your leadership is wrong. You must say no to those orders. But yeah, as I say, I've talked to so many officers over the last 14, 15 days, and by and large they are lovely people. It's only, it seems, the senior members, and I'm not talking about the older members who have been around, I'm talking about senior sergeants, the people giving the orders.
Absolutely.
And I hear you about the it's only a small percentage. I tell everyone the police are like every other belief, religion or group of people, right?
Yeah,
There's a small handful that run for the rest, right?
There's shadow and light and shadow, bro. It has to play out,
And the fact of the matter is, I hear a lot of people say, you know, cross the line, you know, quit, don't do it. Hey, that's not right. These people, they have mortgages, they have families to feed. They can't just turn on all that responsibility, but you can tell they don't want to hurt the citizens. It's only a few that do, and we've got to deal with those, New Zealand. We've got to make complaints, and hey, if you're behind us and you support us and you can't get down here, write an email to your MP, whether the National Labour Act or Green. Write an email to them, write a letter to them, phone them up, put pressure on your MPs, say that this support isn't just a few thousand people in front of Parliament. We know we've got tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people nationwide supporting us because we see their financial support, but speak up. Write a letter to your MP, please.
Thanks, Phil.
So when I got charged, it was a charge against obstructing the police, sort of a nonsense charge. I got bailed to no address, so I came straight back here after I went to the hospital. When I got back, my tent mate Phil, who had been missing, we call him Fubar Phil because my name's Phil, of course, so we have to define ourselves. He tells me that 4:30 in the morning, when he was coming back to the tent, a group of officers grabbed him, yelling, we've got you Fubar, so they knew his Twitter handle. They didn't call him Phil, they called him Fubar, and they charged him with 2 counts of assaulting a police officer. They couldn't give him a date, a time or a place where these assaults occurred. We know Phil doesn't assault people. He's purely peaceful. He holds the line, he binds up, so he's not throwing punches, he's bound to the person next to him. Anyway, they held him till 10 in the morning until I had left the hospital, and that's when he was released from custody. So they aimed at our tent. 3 people got arrested that day according to the police. That was me, my tent mate Phil, and the young 17-year-old who bound to me at the Portaloo. And we were the only 3 arrested that whole day, so that's suspicious, isn't it? Yeah. And with the white car and everything, it was like a diversion, and they gunned directly for me, and as soon as they had me in custody, people tell me who were filming, they backed up and they left. They were aiming for me alone, and I don't know what they think of me, but I think that they chose the wrong person to aim for, because it's given me a platform with people like you. I respect what you do, and thank you so much for putting it out there to the people.
Thank you, Phil.